All right, so look, I want to keep my hopes up that Redfall will be successful, that it'll be a fun game that I'll be absorbed by. I want to give it a chance, but the more marketing happens for this game, the harder it is for me to have faith that it will succeed because of the marketing decisions surrounding it and then recent news about the game that makes me feel like this game should be delayed further, and that the decision to release the game in a state where it doesn't have all of the most ideal features, like that indicates to me that this game is still not fully baked, and that knowingly they're deciding to release the game not fully baked. The PR surrounding this game just hasn't been good. Even from its announcement trailer, you can see right here, they showed off the CGI trailer that really didn't give us much information about the game other than some basic elements. And you can see right here that while the likes to dislikes ratio is more positive than negative, there was enough negative reaction that you can tell people were kind of skeptical about this. And then 2 months ago, Redfall faced some negative PR because it was stated in their FAQ with Bethesda's confirmation that Redfall would require an online connection even in single player. And this is a game that has been advertised to be able to be played in single player, and it just makes no sense for that to require an online connection, especially with the Far Cry-esque open world sandboxy kind of experience that they're going for with single player. Fortunately, they've said recently that they are working to remove that requirement, but we don't know if it's going to happen at launch or sometime later. And then after that, I talked about this IGN first gameplay that is really unfortunate. I feel like IGN didn't put out the best gameplay out there. There's a reason why this video now has over 22,000 dislikes versus just a mere 1.7 thousand likes. The game was played so improficiently that it was hard to get an idea for what was going on, for how the game will generally flow. It just feels like we didn't get a whole lot of valuable information out of this 3-minute gameplay footage that was more disorienting than anything. And that finally brings us to the latest news surrounding the game that has caused further controversy, that has generated more skepticisms and doubts surrounding this game's ability to launch in a good state. Redfall recently tweeted that it's launching on Xbox consoles with quality mode only. On Xbox Series X, it'll be 4K 30 FPS. On Xbox Series S, it'll be 1440p 30 FPS. The 60 FPS performance mode will be added via game update at a later date. We don't really get an idea for when exactly. They don't specify how much later after launch. All we know is sometime after the game comes out, much like how with the removal of the online connection requirement for single player, they've said that we're working on removing it, which is good, but we don't have an exact timetable. We don't know if that's going to be removed before launch or if we're going to have to wait a couple weeks, a couple months. And this just seems to be a trend for Redfall. This is the second time they've said we're going to improve this game, be it by adding a feature that it should have at launch or by removing something that is less than ideal at some point. And the lack of specificity on this front tells me that they do need to delay this game at this stage. They should release the game in the best state possible by removing the single player requirement and by having performance mode available at launch. And for that to happen, if they need to push the date back a little bit, they should do that. The performance mode in particular is a sticking point because this is a first-person shooter where twitch reaction, where reflexes and moment-to-moment combat, all of that is benefited by performance mode, by 60 FPS, by a smooth performance that just gives you a better reaction to what's going on screen, that allows you to have a more direct one-to-one connection with your character on screen. It just allows you to have a faster, smoother, more connected reaction time. That's really important for a game like this, where you don't want to miss your shots, where you want to feel the combat to be as smooth as possible so you can be at your peak performance. The fact that Redfall, of all games, is missing a performance mode is a huge detriment. This isn't some visual novel. This isn't some slow-paced game. There's a lot of chaos happening on screen. There's a lot of tactical shooting required. And for that to be as good feeling as possible, you need to give that performance mode option to people at launch. It just makes no sense for me for Redfall to launch without a performance mode. And the thing that makes this even worse is the fact that all of the marketing that Redfall has shown so far surrounding the game, we have seen the game run at 60 FPS. And that's likely because the game was being played on PC, I think, likely with a controller connected to a PC, and that's what we've been seeing. So for those buying the game on PC, you'll probably be fine, but plenty of people also want to play on Xbox, and Redfall is a big launch for Xbox. It is an Xbox exclusive, so you want to make the console experience as good as possible as well, so people are drawn to the Xbox platform. But the fact that Xbox players are going to get a compromised experience that only runs at 30 FPS, that won't allow for the best reaction and Twitch-based shooting gameplay because the frame rate is significantly lower, making the gameplay less smooth. It's like you don't want to get the game on Xbox at launch. You want to get it on PC, so that's not going to help Xbox. And Xbox right now is already starved for games, while Microsoft has been acquiring studios left and right. They've yet to put out something substantial. Starfield was delayed. Redfall was also delayed from 2022 to 2023. And I'm not saying that's a bad choice because, you know, I prefer that a game launch in the best state possible, even if it means having to go a little longer without some of those high-profile games. But at the same time, the reality is that Xbox's slate of releases has not been particularly great. They have a lot of catching up to do when it comes to competition with PlayStation, and I do believe that when games like Starfield and whatnot start coming out, we're finally going to see Xbox pick up its pace. But man, it's taken a while to get there. And what also makes all of this all the more baffling that they're not launching with a performance mode is that Redfall did get delayed, and yet even with that delay, it's not enough time to add performance mode. So, you know, at this point, it's just, I don't know what's going on with Redfall's development, but it does feel like it needs a little more time to bake in the oven so that at launch, we can have the best features and remove the worst features. And you can see down here that plenty of people feel the same way. This tweet has garnered over 10 million views already, and the kind of ratios we're seeing here doesn't shine a positive light on how people are receiving this news. Almost 6,000 likes, but you can see right here that there are more responses than likes, and there are about the same number of retweets as likes. So this tweet is getting ratioed. And then if you look at the comment section of this Twitter thread, you can see right here that, you know, this is a developer who's saying you should probably just delay. You've got content creators just baffled saying, what's going on here? Really? This is your plan to launch the game in this state? 2023 and 60 FPS is not standard out of the box still. How is this an acceptable standard still? LOL. Again, I think it does depend on the game. Some games straight up can get away with 30 FPS if it doesn't require very high reflexes for moment-to-moment gameplay, but a game like Redfall absolutely benefits greatly from higher frame rate. And with Xbox being advertised as being, you know, 120 FPS capable and whatnot, you know, it's just not good optics seeing this Xbox exclusive from Bethesda, this big Xbox release, not be able to take advantage of this powerful hardware that should be able to run Redfall at 60 FPS, especially given that its graphics fidelity is not necessarily the highest we've seen. It's a very stylized art style, and I'm not saying that there aren't reasons for why developers need more time to get it running at 60 FPS. It is an open world sandbox, so there are, I'm sure, technical elements, but they got to sort that stuff out before the game launches, because Redfall's specific genre first-person shooter and its type of gameplay demands smoother gameplay to allow for the best possible first-person shooter combat, the best possible reactivity from players, the best kind of feel for the game. Disappointing, says this individual. The frame rate and host-only progression means my group won't play. I'd recommend Xbox titles launch when ready. First impressions matter. And that's another thing with Xbox struggling to keep up with PlayStation as far as major first-party releases go. They have to make a big splash with something like Redfall, and this just feels like a whimper, especially when you consider that PlayStation has been consistent in releasing their games with both a quality mode and a performance mode, and even something in between where the game runs at like 40 to 45 frames per second. They've been really good about giving players options when it comes to, do they want graphics fidelity versus do they want performance, especially for games like Last of Us Part 1 and God of War, where, yeah, you do definitely feel the advantage of using performance mode, that smoother gameplay that just makes the game feel better and just makes you better at the game because the reactivity is so much better. It's just a shame seeing that Redfall will launch like this. I really, really don't think this is the right move for Redfall, for Xbox. This is just not a good look at all, and it is yet another element of negative optics in what's been a string of negative PR for this game that I feel like does have a lot of potential. The impressions from people who've played it seem more positive leaning, but all of this negative, poor PR and marketing is really, I think, killing the hype surrounding this game. It's killing people's motivations to get this game on launch day. And it's just, all of this is proving, I think, really detrimental for the game's potential to be commercially successful. We'll see when the game launches what its quality is like. But to me, this kind of compromise tells me that they're willing to compromise on quality for the sake of launching this game on this specific deadline. It looks to me like the game just straight up won't be ready if they're not going to have freaking performance mode for this first-person shooter ready at launch, and they're being this vague about when exactly performance mode will come out. This is not the way. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the recent news that Redfall will be launching with just a 30 FPS quality mode with no performance mode, with performance mode coming at a later date. Do you think it's as detrimental as a lot of people are saying it is, or do you kind of not care, and do you think people are blowing it out of proportion? For me, this is a big deal as someone who vastly prefers to play at a 60 FPS performance mode versus a 30 FPS quality mode. But that's my take. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.